Hi, I'm Darren Hill in Bryan, Texas. This is the second part of a, I don't know how many part video, about bees and Langstroth hives. Now, we're going to talk to you about configuration. Now, as I said in the earlier video, there is about, when these are full of wax and honey and they're over exploding, these are full to the brim and they're pushed up against each other, but there's still 5/8 of an inch in between them. But when you're doing honey, you usually take out one frame, so you have a 9-frame box, and you spread it apart so that you can have a build out. Basically, the bees could build out to about maybe that thickness on the comb, and it's so much easier to take a hot knife and just slice off the caps and get the honey out of than it is when it's really thin and they're squished up against each other because you're hitting the wood with your knife trying to get off, and you're getting a fork on the shallow bits. Just let it grow out. So you do 9 frames in your super and it'll work well. Now, basically there are 3 critters out in the universe. There are a mite called Varroa destructor, and they're the #1 reason bees are dying off. And destructor is a really cool name to be a mite. But there's also the small hive beetle, and those basically both will sit there and eat the larvae of the bees. You don't want those. What you really don't want is wax moths. Wax moths, they go for the pollen that the bees gather. They don't care about the larvae or the nectar or the wax. So you can take these boxes off in the winter and store them in your garage, and you can put a piece of plywood on top and a piece on the bottom, and nothing will bother these, okay? But what's important is this, because this is the lifeblood of the whole box. Now, this is an excluder. You want one of these things because you want to keep the queen down here. She cannot fit through that. All the worker bees can, so they'll go back and forth. They'll put their babies down here, and then they'll start filling this up with sugar water, food, and honey and stuff like that. So this just keeps the queen down there, because if she goes up, they start to ignore everything down here, and she'll just keep going up, and everything below her will basically get abandoned, and then that can get attacked by wax moths and stuff. Now, this is a 10-frame hive. Now, this is the main reason of these videos, is to explain this one little particular thing. Right here is an 8-frame Langstroth hive. Somebody was asking me about it, why I don't like these, but you can see that they're smaller. Okay, now one thing about hives is they have different boxes. This is the super. This is where the honey is. It is also called a medium. There's also a shallow. A shallow is about that, probably about that thick. A shallow will probably weigh, let's say, half as much as this when it's full, but this, when it's full of honey, will weigh about 70-80 pounds. And trying to move about 100 or 200 or 300 of them gets kind of painful, okay? When this is full of sugar, water, and food and storage and stuff, and I've had it where there's a brood box here and there's another brood box here, and it's just full of stores. It is so full that I cannot lift this. This will weigh about 100, 125 pounds. I have to have my wife help me pick this one up when it's just pure honey. But the reason I tell people you want an 8-frame hive is this. Usually in the configuration, the bees will put their pollen and their storage on the last frame, and they will use these inner frames for their raising of their babies. A queen can lay up to 2,000 eggs per day. Some people will say, well, you need to have this box and another brood box so that she'll have plenty of room to breed in. Well, first she's going to do, she's going to go up to here and then ignore this, and then the wax moths come, so that's bad. So we don't do that. We just keep it down to 1 box. Now, this is not wax foundation. This is something called plasticell. Professional beekeepers like this because it's much more durable. I don't like it. I've never had my bees like it, so I just usually don't use it. But there's 7,000 cells on this one frame, and so usually in a 10 frame, that's 70,000 cells. A queen lays about 2,000 eggs per day. Mathematically, she cannot fill these boxes up, period. So So if, say, she starts on this frame and she's working her way and laying 2,000 eggs a day, by the time she gets to here, a bee takes 26 days from the time it's laid as an egg to the time it emerges from the cell. By the time she gets to here, these bees are emerging. So she cannot possibly fill this box in addition to another box. She will try her best to fill this up, but she's probably going to just get to about 95% full before it's starting over again. So she'll just go whoop, and then she'll put back here and just kind of repeat the cycle. So these are full of food. These are full of babies. That's 10 frames. You do it in an 8-frame box, they're going to be able to use 6 or so of those frames to build out their hives, maybe 4 with the brood. The rest is used for storage. So let's say it's a smaller hive, they're going to be doing their best to increase that hive, because the whole purpose of a beehive is to grow. If it's not growing, it's dying. So it's sitting here trying to grow, and it's in an 8-frame box, and it can't go. It can't move. It can't get out. It's stuck. You know what it's going to want to do? It's going to swarm. And suddenly your neighbors call in and say, I got 75 billion bees on my front porch. Can you please come get them? And that's kind of a hassle. Especially when they swarm, basically the old queen will gather up half the working bees and about half the storage of food in here, which you want them to stay, and they'll fly off and go make a hive in somebody's attic or tree or garage space somewhere, and so you're out of luck. So the more room they have, the happier they will be. Now there are different hives. There are ware hives, there are top bar hives, but we usually stick to Langstroth hives. In nature, bees go up. They don't go sideways. They take up whatever space they can, but they tend to go up and down. So that's why we like this. There's another hive that basically, top bar hives, they basically go for length, but I don't think they're very good because they just kind of restrict the bees, and the bees don't like to go sideways. In our next video, we are going to explain more about bees. I haven't figured out what we're going to explain because I haven't thought of it yet. I'm making this up as I go along. Anyways, thank you for talking and listening, and we'll get back to you on video number 3. Thanks.